Well, welcome back. Week 12, day one. We are just smoking along on our Bible reading plan. I had to laugh. Someone recently asked, "Oh, does this just go through Lent?" I'm like, "Nope, it's all year long." But we are going to manage it. Just remember, it's just like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. So today we continue our adventure by reading Joshua chapters 3 through 6. Much like the Israelites in our own journey to this point, the Israelites are now right on the border. They're right on the precipice, if you will, of finally achieving the second part of God's covenant with Abraham. If you remember, the first one was that there would be more descendants than sand on the seashore or stars in the sky. With a census that was taken in numbers, both at the beginning and at the end, we see that Abraham's progeny is now counting into the millions of people. And so now we achieve the second part of the covenant that Abraham and his descendants would take possession of Canaan, of the promised land. So here they are. One last thing, if you will, that needs to take place before they actually go into the promised land is a reminder of where they have come from. And so we see a series of events that echo the time that the people have spent in God's presence, going all the way back to their ancestor Abraham with the renewal of the sign of circumcision. Now, that just sort of gives me a squinchy feeling, but nonetheless, it was a sign within their bodies that they were part of this covenant. And so they renew that aspect of it. We also then see Joshua encountering an angel of God and standing on holy ground. If we remember back at the early part of Exodus, when God calls Moses to lead the people out of Egypt, he encounters a fiery burning bush, a fiery bush that is not burning up. And when he approaches, he is told, "Take off your sandals, for you stand on holy ground." So we see a lot of parallels going on in this section. Additionally, we see the reiteration of Passover. It was the 10th of the signs, or what we call plagues, in Egypt, but it was also that point in which the Israelites were then saved and moved out of Egypt. And then, last but not least, the crossing of the Jordan. And what we see is that God stops the waters in a very similar manner to when the previous generation, upon leaving Egypt, they crossed the Red Sea that was parted for them so they could walk across on dry land. In the midst of this, we see over and over again the centrality of the Ark of the Covenant. It represents God's presence among the people, the covenant that God has made that is being fulfilled, and God's presence with them every step of the way. As we go through life, we come upon times when we finally find ourselves just ready to complete or fulfill projects or deadlines. It might be something momentous like a graduation or a wedding. And we think about all the preparation that went into that. And that's what we're seeing here, the Israelites being reminded of everything that has finally brought them to this point. But it's also a reminder that God has been with us all the way, and we need to keep God central in our lives, regardless of where we go and whatever our next step is. If I were counseling a couple who were getting married, it would be a reminder that a wedding is more than just two people, it's two people and the God that they serve. And so, how do we continue to serve and love God in the midst of all of the things that God brings us about, the successes as well as sometimes the disappointments? How is God central in your life today?